by yourself. But before you slow down long enough, before you get distracted long enough, you need to tell your virtual neighbor in the chat, watch them distractions. You got to watch them distractions. The wind came as a distraction, and fear began to have a conversation with him to tell him he had no business walking on the water. In spite of the fact that Jesus was still there, Jesus had not gone AWOL. Jesus was out there on the water with Peter, and when he began to surrender to fear, he lost his footing and he began to sink. He's defied the law of physics. He's walked on the water. Jesus tells him to come. Jesus is still there on the water, but Peter sees the wind. He begins to listen to the distractions and the conversations of fear, and he begins to sink. But God gave me a fresh insight about this scripture and an important truth that I want to share to anybody who's motivated by faith to know and experience the Lord in another dimension. For anybody whose faith has motivated them to take the leap into uncharted territory. Peter is an example of what can happen when fear trumps faith. I know that in this political environment, that may not be a good word for me to be using this morning, considering everything that's going on. But I believe it may be good to know that the word that is meant for your bad can become for your good. How we can take the person Trump and turn it into the thing Trump, so you can use it and not let fear trump your faith. Is there any card players in the room? Yeah. See, you know something about what Trump means if you're a card player, whether you're playing spade or bid whiz. See, I come from a card playing family. I got this family up in Chicago. Every time they show up, they travel with cards and will play. And they don't really like to play spades. They like to play bid whiz. But I'm not a bid whiz type of player. I'm a spade player. And since spade is the game I know, I love to play spades. I love to talk all kind of trash at the card table. You know, you have those who will take a card. Let me see if I got something here. And you know how they do, they slap it up against their head or put it up on their forehead. And they slap their cards down on the table so they make that perfect sound. Yeah, I'm one of them. And at family reunions and gatherings, there's always a line waiting for the next turn at the table. Before we even get in our seat, we already talking trash. We already talking about who we gonna whoop and how we gonna beat somebody and how you better get ready to rise and fly. And some of us know something about spades today. And since this is the game that I know, let me talk about this game. The Trump suite is special. And it beats every other suite in the card. No matter what the card is or the current value of the card, the holder of the spade can beat a club. If you got a spade, you can beat a diamond. If you got a spade, you can beat a heart. It can win in any particular circumstance. Just make sure you don't play the wrong card now. Make sure you don't let the card walk too soon. Don't get too anxious. Tell somebody, you better be careful you don't let it walk too soon. Tell them in the chat, don't walk too soon. You know you don't want to mess up. And just in case you don't have anything else and you're trump tight, a spade can trump just about any card, because trump cards always win. And so it's the nature of a trump card to win. And it wins every single time. And I want to suggest that there are times when fear works like a trump card. It works like a trump card because fear is one of the things that can trump your faith. And I want to argue that fear is one of the enemy's trump cards. Fear is a curious and powerful emotion. It can be a powerful motivator. It's the basic alarm system of the human body. It can be a useful emotion when it leads to appropriate action and caution. And it's a measure that guards your welfare. But Martin Luther King said that fear is a powerfully creative force. It's the fear of ignorance that led to education. It's the fear of darkness that led to the discovery of electricity. King says the fear of pain led to the marvelous advances in medical science. The fear of ignorance led to the building of learning institutions. And the fear of war was one of the forces behind the birth of the United Nations. We buy burglar alarms for our houses because of the fear of home invasion. Fear can be a powerful motivator in every saving invention. Every intellectual advance had behind it a motivation or desire to avoid or escape something that we dreaded. Fear can be a powerful motivator because it can set us on the path to action. But while I can say that it's a powerful motivator, I stop by to let you know it can be a terrible master. Tell somebody in your virtual space it's a terrible master. Fear can be a powerful motivator, but it's a terrible master. When you allow fear to become your master, fear will stop your mind. Fear will shut your mouth. Fear will stay your hand. Fear will keep you from taking risks and being effective. Fear will become a hindrance to you enjoying life if it's induced by delusions and if it lingers and overpowers other emotions. It can paralyze us from making decisions. It can lend itself to the inability to engage in the normal activities of life. So while fear can be a powerful motivator, it is a terrible master. It can hold us hostage to an unprofitable past. It can rob us of the potential of our future. It can paralyze us from moving forward. It can hold us back from moving into our destiny. It can leave us with nothing but regret. Fear can hold us back from loving again, from trusting again, from trying again, from dreaming again, from trying to start all over again. When fear is our master, it has the potential to rob us of some of the greatest victories in our lives. Some of the greatest financial blessings in our lives are missed because of our fear of taking a risk. Some of the most fulfilling relationships we miss because we are fearful of taking a risk. I want to argue today that fear is the devil's primary weapon. It is his trump card. It's the spiritual force that begins inside of us and has the potential to be totally destructive and rob us of our activity and our agility and creating us a type of inertia that enables us, that prevents us from moving forward. It keeps us in a state of neutral so that we really don't know what to do. It robs us of our faith and our peace. It keeps us focused on circumstances rather than focusing on what God said. The enemy will instill fear by challenging the promises of God. But what I'm trying to tell you is that fear will keep you from winning. Tell somebody, fear will not only keep you from winning, it'll keep you from stepping out on faith. It'll keep you from trying something new. It'll keep you from acting on the vision of the dream that God has given you. A writer said, fear attempts to meet faith at the intersection of real spiritual courage, doubt into one's pondering a faithful future. I stopped by to let you know, fed the unbelief that kept the nation of Israel from entering the promised land. Fear is what caused the nation of Egypt to panic when they left the land of Egypt, only to discover that Pharaoh's army was behind them. And they wanted to retreat and go back to Egypt. Fear is what caused Peter to sink when he saw the wind. Fear is the enemy's trump card. And how many people do you know have missed out on opportunities? Not because they were incompetent, not because they were unattainable or impossible, because they were afraid of whether it could really be done. They were afraid of whether it could really happen to them. And their fear of failure led them to believe that they would be crushed permanently for even having the audacity to believe they could do something at that level. But we don't have to talk about other folks. I stopped by today and said, you can talk about yourself. All you have to do is think back over your own life. Maybe not back, maybe even right now, about how much you've held back, how much you've been held up, and what you have missed, and what you could have set out on. But because you didn't know how to answer fear, when fear showed up and decided to have a conversation with you. But I need to tell somebody that fear don't even deserve an explanation. If you've gotten a confirmation from Jesus, your best bet is to keep moving forward until God gives you deliverance and you see the manifestation. So what I'm suggesting to you today is that while fear has the potential to trump faith, and while there's a place for healthy fear in our lives, the moment we allow fear into our spiritual dimension, our spiritual life, our spiritual end zone, we begin to run the risk of arriving too late to secure our future. And somebody else benefits from the effort you've already invested. Oh, you need to look at somebody and say you already did the hard part. So I'm so glad that fear don't trump faith, because I stopped by to tell you that in the game of faith, there is another card, and that card can trump a spade. Can somebody shout with me, there is another card? You see, some folks don't like to play with these cards. Some folks like to play spades with just the spade. But I'm one of those card players that I like to play with the other two cards. The other two cards are the cards that will sneak up from behind. You're not really prepared. If you ever been in a game with somebody and they thought they were going to whoop you, they thought you didn't have anything in your hand because you wasn't able to really get any books. But then they slapped down them last two cards, and then you reach into your deck and you come out with the big joker, and then you slap down the little joker. I can tell you that faith is a big joker. Can you tell somebody in your virtual space that there's a big joker that can override a spade? It can override just about anything. It can override a club. It can override a diamond. I tell you, the big joker is your faith, and it can trump fear. I stopped by to tell you that Jesus had already told Peter, even before he got out the boat, he said, Peter, and to the disciples, take courage, it is I. You don't have to be afraid. Right there, he gave me my trump card. And I can tell you that faith is a trump card. I stopped by to tell you that faith will be your trump card when you're walking into uncharted territory. Because some of us are under the illusion that just because God calls us to some new places and some new faces, that we won't encounter the wind and the storm. But the shout is not that I won't have a storm. The shout is that as long as Jesus is with me, I can succeed in somewhere that I should have drowned. Oh, I feel my help coming on. Oh, can you preach to somebody and tell them as long as Jesus is with me, I can succeed in a place that I should have drowned. I'm talking to the people that can't swim. I'm talking to the people that don't have a life jacket. I'm talking to the people that didn't know you were going where you were going. You were blind, crippled, and didn't know what God was up to. But you got out the boat. You did the hard part. And I stopped by to tell you that as long as Jesus is with you, you can succeed when everybody's waiting on you to drown. I want somebody to help me this morning to shut this thing down. I stopped by to put a smile on your face. I stopped by to tell you, don't let fear trump your faith. Oh, I stopped by to let you know that the reason why is because Jesus is with me. When Jesus is with me, I can accomplish anything. I can survive anything. I can score a film. I can write a book. I can start a church. I can start a ministry. I can finish a degree. I can open a learning center. I can do whatever God says I can do. When Jesus is with me, oh, I stop by. Tell somebody, don't let faith, don't let fear trump your faith. Not only is Jesus with me, but I stop by to tell you that not only is he with you, he said, I got you. That even though I may walk through the midst of some trouble, he said he would remind me that he will stretch forth his hand against the wrath of my enemy. Perhaps that is why the shepherd said that even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will feel no evil, but thou art with me. Thou rod and thy staff, they comfort me. And thou prepare it. Oh, won't he do it? Won't he do it? Will he, won't he? Prepare a table in the presence of my enemy. Oh, can you encourage somebody this week and tell them, don't let fear trump your faith, but let faith trump your fear. Oh, what kind of faith you talking about, preacher? I'm talking about faith that can move mountains, faith that can cause walls to tumble, faith that can trump morality, faith that can trump injustice, faith that can trump my past, faith that can trump my mistakes, faith that can trump my inadequacy, faith that can trump my wrongs. Tell somebody I can still win. I can still leap over the obstacles. I can still, come on. Oh, God is with me. He said, don't worry. You need to celebrate this morning. Tell somebody he's already done the hard part. He's more than the world against me. Have you gotten out of the boat this morning? Have you done the hard part? Are you ready to see God do some great things in your life? Don't let fear trump your faith, but let your faith trump your fear. Yes! Oh yeah! I feel my help coming on. Oh, what I want to shout about the goodness of God. Where's my water walkers this morning? Where's my faith believers? I want to step out and start walking. I want to step out into a new dimension. I want to step out on faith and do what's never been done. Go where I've never gone before. Try some things that somebody said was impossible, because I understand that my faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. When you come on and celebrate with me, when you step out on faith, when you trust God, and he said, come unto me, all ye that are laden, heavy laden, and I will lift up your burdens. I will make your pathways clear. I will clear, straighten out the crooked places, lift up the low valleys. I will be your ship in the midst of the storm. I'll speak peace to the waves and to the winds. When you step out and not be fearful this morning, when you try something new, when you give God an opportunity to do what only God can do, don't let your fear trump your faith, but let your faith trump your fear. Oh, hallelujah. There's somebody. It might be in the sanctuary. It might be in our virtual space. But there's somebody who's been operating in a spirit of fear. And I don't know what it is, but the Spirit is telling me that there is somebody who is operating in a spirit of fear. It might be a relationship that you stayed in way too long, but you're fearful that you can't make it on your own. You're fearful if you let go, maybe I won't find nobody else. But I stopped by to let you know, if God says move, you need to move. It may be going back to school, starting a whole nother career. And you're like, but I've invested so much time. I've given so much of my life to this. But God is saying, if you would just do what I asked you to do, I will bless you beyond measure. You'll recover everything that you think you might be losing. There's some of us that want to step out and try business. There's some of us that want to step out and just try God. I stopped by this morning to just tell you he's standing there waiting, and he says, come. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. That's your confirmation. Don't let fear don't you know how there's some people in life, and I know everybody in here probably done dealt with this. There are some people in life that you just don't even have a conversation with. That's how you need to do fear. When fear begins to come into your conversation and begins to whisper in your ear, you need to shut it down and say, I'm not even engaging in that conversation, because I know a man who told me I can do the impossible. Not by myself, but with God. And I'm not going to listen to what you're saying. I'm not listening to the naysayers, the doubters, the critics, the do nothing, go nowhere, done nothing, tried nothing, ain't did nothing, ain't going to do nothing. I'm going to listen to God. Wherever you may be in your virtual space this morning, will you pray this prayer with me? God, help me to overcome my fears. God, help me to see you as a way maker. Enable me to trust you, God, when I can't trace you. God, when I see trouble on the right and trouble on the left, God, enable me to keep my eyes focused on you and trust that you will deliver me from the hands of my enemy. If you don't have a relationship with God this morning, I invite you to enter into a relationship with God. Post it in the chat, and we will be glad to reach out to you and invite you into our virtual space. This is a time that you need to be covered by the blood, because fear is rampant right now. There's somebody up in the White House that is spewing it every time. But I stopped by to let you know, don't let fear trump your faith, but let your faith trump your fear. Will you be blessed and encourage somebody this week that may be in a point of fearfulness? Let them know that your faith is stronger than any fear, because it rests in the power of God. Hallelujah. We're preparing to leave this place, but never from his presence. We thank you so much for joining us today. And we're so thankful that you have thought it not robbery. And we pray that the word has blessed you today, that the word has encouraged you to step out of your comfort zone and try something that you never thought you would try before. Do something that you don't even have any idea about doing. And when you follow God, watch and see that God will not only bless it, but God will bless you. So from Mount Zion in College Park, we say bless, and that you are blessed and will be blessed